first motion for execute the minutes for the meeting of November 21st.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Lemon?
Yep.
Mr. Clickwell? Mr. Spillier?
All right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hold on a minute. We're not there yet.
Oh, we're not? Okay.
This will be real quick. I have two things to report on.
That's fine.
Okay. On November 30th, as authorized by Resolution 17006, I approved the following, approved hiring Douglas Terrell to the position of part-time transit driver, job number 2210-1, to be effective December 4th, 2017, at the rate of $13.97 per hour with a one-year probationary period. This offer of employment is contingent upon the successful completion of the required pre-employment conditions for the county home, except of the resignation of Robert Koth, part-time attendant, number 1504, to be effective November 28, 2017, and grant permission to advertise for the position of full-time attendant, number 1504, third shift. This position will remain posted until filled. And then item number 3, I have to report on financial. I approved on November 30th. This is simply an appropriation transfer from the Sheriff's Office to cover a shortage in the Violence Against Women Act grant, OPERS contribution is the one we put into to the salaries, Medicare and OPERS, actually.
Okay.
So very much. Yep, okay. So now, Adrian.
The financials for today include an appropriations transfer from contingency to the clerk of courts for year-end salary and OPERS requirements, a supplemental appropriation for the Board of DD and Water Resources for levy expenses from the county and the state, cash transfer from the general fund to the sewer and water debt retirement fund for the OWDA debt payment for the Merritt and Ravenwood water system, which Dave and I looked yesterday, and we only have about 3 more years to pay on that. So,
Okay.
The encumbrances include an encumbrance increase of $50,000 from Department on Aging to Page Foods for year-end expenses, an encumbrance increase of $20,000 from Water Resources for the Cleveland Division of Water, a purchase order from the Board of DD to Zeta Corporation for the installation of a fire detection system. There's also a travel expense from the dog warden for the CCAO Winter Conference. Among the vouchers are a $20,000 payment from the Commissioners to the Geauga County Agricultural Society for their 2017 remainder of funding. A payment of $102,104.45 from the Engineer's Office to Chagrin Valley Paving to resurface Kirtland Road Section A through C, and a payment of $14,474.25 from Transit to Foxter Solution Incorporated for scheduling software.
Any questions? The Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board approve and execute Resolution number 17-148, itemizing the financials for the meeting of December 5th, 2017.
Make that motion. Quick question on that Foxter. Is this is replacing their transit management system, do you know?
It's like a scheduling software to schedule pickups, drop-offs, and where all the trucks are at and all that stuff. It's a system, I guess, that they had to upgrade to.
Well, they've had Trapeze for a number of years. That was hosted on a server. This Foxter solution, I believe, is cloud-based because that's what ODOT is supporting now in terms of being.
So this was something they were asked to move to because the grant that they take and so on and so
Correct.
forth. So it's not the choice that they're made. And
No.
Not
we
necessarily,
went,
no, they
we
probably.
went through an appropriate selection process.
Yes.
Whatever, so.
Yes.
Okay, just confirming that. So,
Yeah.
Very good.
actually, I didn't really like the trapeze. I looked at it.
Yeah.
It wasn't a big meaning, so. Okay,
Can I
yes.
have a second?
Second, sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Lemon?
Yes.
Mr. Clickwell?
Yep.
Mr. Spillier?
All right.
Okay, the probate juvenile.
Nobody here, Skip, I believe you talked to Ms. Lori about this?
Oh, you're talking about the grant thing?
Yes.
I had a brief conversation with the court liaison, and this apparently is the same grant that they've been taking year in and year out. It's a kind of a shuffling of the dollars. It didn't change the dollar amount, they're reshuffling some of the bodies.
Line
within
items.
the grant.
Yep.
So it didn't look like it changed much from our perspective. So it's a recovery grant in any case, so they're recovering money based on some things that we're doing. So didn't see any issue with it.
Tim, you have any issues?
No.
The probate juvenile court is requesting the board approve and authorize the president and board to execute amendment number 1, attachment A, page 2 of the fiscal year 2018 Ohio Department of Youth Services grant to adjust funds due to staff changes.
So moved.
Commissioner Lennon?
Yes.
Commissioner Claypool?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
How you doing? I'm well. Yeah. Good, good. Number 6 is simply to remove Elizabeth Pappas as the industry reporting facility representative. She was at Great Lakes Cheese. She's still there, but Phil Pavick from Great Lakes Cheese is just taking her place. So we're just swapping a couple people on the LEPC. Has to go through the board. I'll send it down to the state.
Okay.
The Department of Emergency Services is requesting the board approve and authorize the president of the board to execute the application for appointment for Phil Pavick to the State Emergency Response Commission for appointment to the Geauga County Local Emergency Planning Committee for the period ending August 14, 2019 to fill the unexpired term of Elizabeth Pappas as the industry reporting facility representative.
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Lennon?
Yes.
Commissioner Claypool?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye. Number 7 is our radiological emergency response plan for Perry for the county. 2017 was a no change from 2016, and really the only change that we're making for the 2018, NERIG 654, which is the national standard, is asking us to put a crosswalk in. So you can look up a new reg standard, and then it specifically points to where that standard is met in our plan. So it's just taking, a document from here, where do you find the information in this document? In our plan. So there's not really any real changes, it's just we had to put this crosswalk.
The Department of Emergency Services is requesting the board approve and execute and further authorize the Director of the Department of Emergency Services to execute the Radiological Emergency Response Plan for an emergency at the Perry Nuclear Power Plant, revision 25, dated January 2018.
Make that motion?
Commissioner Lennon?
Yes.
Commissioner Claypool?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Sir.
Hey, Roger, thanks a lot, by the way, for helping out Mr. Kavanaugh from Auburn. He gave you a compliment the other night.
Oh.
We were in a joint session together. He complimented the help that you gave him and so forth. So I appreciate you doing
Thanks
that.
for the feedback, because after the initial meeting with him, I sent him 2 follow-up emails to make sure he was, and I never heard back.
Well, he wasn't happy with the decision,
Right.
but what can you do about that? It is
Right.
what it is. But you helped him,
Okay.
you did your job, you went beyond your job, actually. And it speaks well for the county that you did what you did. Auburn was pleased that they had somebody to go to and talk to, even though they didn't like the answer. But it is what it is. You can't change the rules of the game. So, but I appreciate you doing this.
Thanks for the feedback.
One of the neat things about having Roger in this position is being a township trustee in Trumbull County. He understands their world, because he's going to be, I think, doing a lot more outreach to the townships and getting them involved, and getting the trustees up to speed on emergency preparedness and programs like that. So we're very fortunate to have
But
him.
Auburn had a bunch of severe wind damage.
Yeah.
And thought maybe they could get some recovery of
Right.
that. Unfortunately, trees falling over don't qualify.
Well, you got to have a certain amount of damage to get to that threshold.
Dollars.
But it's nice to have somebody come talk to, because these guys don't know.
Right.
You know what the rules are, Roger knows what the rules are. So-
Well, and I spend a lot of time with Lori from Bainbridge on the phone too, so.
Yeah.
But I never received any feedback on whether or not they, so I appreciate you.
You know, they came up and gave me feedback, so,
Okay.
and I thought I'd pass it on to you, so, thank you.
Number 8, Dave, do you want to just?
Yeah, this is
talk about
simply,
this?
whenever the property tax structure changes, there has to be an amended document that you guys execute, and this is reflective of the passage of the library levy. So it's the certificate of all rates that it's, the county auditor oversees. You guys have to sign off on that, and that's the change, as Christiana remembered this morning.
The Commissioner's Office is requesting the board approve and execute resolution number 17-149, amended accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor.
I'll make that motion. Second.
Commissioner Lennon?
Yes.
Commissioner Claypool? Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
Eight, 10.
Okay,
Is somebody here from the library?
I think so. Yeah, there it is.
You need us?
Yes, please. Come on.
Good morning.
Hi.
How are you? Good, good.
So maybe explain for the board the financing, how you're proceeding to go forth with the project now that the taxpayers have approved the levy.
Okay, we're planning on issuing bonds and not to exceed $10 million this, or notes, not to exceed $10 million this year. That way we can get better financing. Next year they can be, I'm just learning this. Yeah, bank qualified status when they issue the notes next year. And that should save $1.5 million over the life of the bonds. So that's what we're requesting.
So instead of going out for the initial request, it's gonna be two, you're gonna split this in half, is that what
It
you're
will be
doing?
split in half, and that way we
Okay.
can get the bank qualified.
Okay.
If it has to be under 10 million for bank qualified.
Is that similar to the notes that we did for the safety center?
For the safety center, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and by law, it's always termed as notes in anticipation of issuing bonds. In the case of the safety center, we issued, it was a little bit over $10 million initially, because it was a $14.7 million project. And ultimately, we never issued bonds, we just rolled the notes
Just
and
kept
paid
rolling
down
the
the
notes.
principal every year. So we were able to retire them under 10 years,
Right.
and that saves a lot of money. And the interest
Interest,
rates are
yeah.
very low, because you're not committing to a 30-year where they say,
Right.
it's going to be 30 years, you gotta have a rate up there where they're sure they'll make money over the life of the loan.
I know that they're looking at different options going forward, so, and I
Mhm.
believe that's how we did the administrative stuff,
Mm,
with
could be, yeah.
the notes. So.
So I'm kind of curious, $1 million out of, what would the interest rate be otherwise? And so
The
what was the
interest
total?
rate,
yeah, if
I'm
it
not sure
was-
what the interest rate will be.
No, what I'm saying is, you projected what the total due bill was gonna be based on current interest, so I think it was like 48 million.
Oh, well,
So
okay, you
you're
were getting, yes.
Getting a $24 million loan with a $48 million payback over 30 years,
Right.
right?
And we're
so
saving
you're saving $1
1.5.
million out of 48. So
Yeah, but
put
it's still
things
a
into
savings.
context.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, I'm just
Oh,
saying,
yeah,
I'm
it's
just putting things into
savings.
context. So, yeah, so, but I mean, in essence, if you do 210, does that mean you're gonna save 2 million, or?
You can only do 10 million in a year.
Right.
So we're limited, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I'm understanding. You can only do 10 million in a year. So if we are getting our money tomorrow, or next year, we can only do that $10 million. But you can't do two
Right.
in a year.
But you get, I mean.
Well, it's not like all that money's gonna be coming in on year one anyway from the taxpayers.
But you're still, the
Yeah.
plan is still to get 24 million.
Yes.
Okay, so you're gonna get a 10 million now,
You're getting
and
10 million
14
already.
million later.
10 million in notes now. This is the plan as it stands now.
Right.
10 million in notes this year.
Right.
Then we will do 14 million in bonds next year, and then pay off the notes next year also, and do bank qualified in bonds next year.
Are you planning
also.
on rolling over that 10 million? Is that what your thought process is? You're gonna roll over that $10 million rather than taking
That is
bonds,
not the
or-
thought process now. The thought process now is that we will pay off those notes and issue bonds in 10 million
Right, okay.
next year.
So the 1 million is just based on the 10, not on the
Yes.
14.
Right, because that's
So-
all you can base
You
it
mean
on.
1.5.
The
Interest
1.5.
savings?
Gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah.
1.5.
1.5.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Half million.
And then the other two continuous levies that are in perpetuity that collect nearly about 5 million annually, what is that gonna be allocated for?
It's allocated for the same thing.
Same
It's
stuff?
allocated
Yeah.
now, salaries, upkeep on buildings.
So your budget now is about 12 million a year or something?
No,
No.
8.5.
8.5, okay. Okay. Very good. I guess I'm just learning, usually when I, would say I'm gonna go buy something, those dollars are allocated to, what I'm gonna purchase, and this kinda seems like it's an open-ended,
The-
as far as how this money's gonna be spent.
The 24?
Yeah, the 24, I mean,
All right.
I mean,
Capital improvements funds.
Yeah.
Only be spent on capital
right,
improvements.
right.
I mean, it's for new Bainbridge building, new building in Thompson, upgrades to the other buildings.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
do we have a
Used for
specific?
operating, it's
Right,
capital
okay.
improvements.
Okay. Okay. Okay, great. Any other questions? I'm excited to see what these libraries look like.
We're excited
Yeah,
to see
yeah,
too.
Yeah.
Did you get the gold inlay picked out yet?
The Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board approve and execute Resolution Number 17-150, providing for the issuance and sale of notes of the Geauga County Public Library in the amount of not to exceed $10 million in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of constructing, renovating, and improving library facilities, furnishing and equipping the same, improving the sites thereof, and acquiring land and interest in land in connection therewith, and authorizing and approving related matters.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Lennon?
Yep.
Mr. Claypool?
Yep.
Mr. Spillier?
Hi. Did you word this, Christian?
I did not.
I was gonna say, it sounds very legalistic, so.
It is, it came from
From
bond
bond
counsel.
counsel.
Ah, very good.
And our bond counsel did review it.
Thank you. Good luck.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Okay. Do you want me to?
Have at it.
We received the resolution from Lake County, and then we received one from Trumbull County regarding the appointment. And after I received the second one, I contacted NeoCap and said, am I missing something? We never received Mr. Hager's information. So there was an issue with my email address, and I missed, it was bounced. They missed the CO in my email, and so I never received it initially to pass on to you. So Mr. Hager is an attorney in Portage County. He's also a partner in the firm, and he is requesting to serve on the NeoCap Facility Governing Board. Apparently, Mr. Dennis Lager, our previous appointment, stepped down. He resigned, and so Mr. Hager is just going to fill out the remainder of his term. So then he would be up for reappointment in November of next year. Questions? So the Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board approve and execute Resolution Number 17-151, appointing Aaron J. Hager to the Northeast Ohio Community Alternative Program NeoCap Facility Governing Board.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Lennon?
Yes.
Commissioner Claypool? Commissioner Spillier?
Aye. Yeah, might as well. If you wanted to, if there's something specifically that somebody has a question of, or else we can probably run through those pretty quickly.
Okay. Number 11 is the Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board reappoint Laura Jansen to the Developmental Disabilities Board for a 4-year term beginning January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Lennon?
Yes.
Commissioner Claypool?
Yep.
Commissioner Spillier? Okay. 12 and 13, I can do together. Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board reappoint Sheriff Scott Hildebrandt to the Volunteer Peace Officers Dependents Fund Board for the term ending December 31st, 2018. The Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board reappoint Auditor Frank Leah to the Volunteer Peace Officers Dependents Fund Board for the term ending December 31st, 2018.
Make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Lennon?
Yes.
Commissioner Claypool?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board approve and execute Resolution Number 17-152 honoring Richard L. Sayer for his many years of public service and dedication to Middlefield.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Lennon?
Yes.
Commissioner Claypool? Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
Are any of you able to attend their meeting on Thursday night?
What is it? What is it?
Initially, you had said that you were available to go. If you are not, I will make sure that the resolution gets there.
Oh, you're talking about this resolution? Okay, I wasn't here. I think I'm gonna get a hearing test with my hearing.
Yeah, where
I'm
is
having
it?
trouble.
It's in Middlefield,
Oh.
in the village hall.
I can barely hear you.
I'm sorry. This,
My hearing is good, though, I don't wear hearing aids.
This resolution, came at the request of Middlefield. He has chosen not to rerun again and is retiring early. So his last meeting is Thursday the 7th. So
I'm
I just
available.
asked if they were, any of them were available to go to the meeting to present the resolution. If not, then I will make sure that it gets to Middlefield ahead of time.
I am available if there's an interest in doing that, so.
All right, number 15. Commissioner's Office is requesting board grant permission to advertise for the position of Assistant County Administrator number 1323. This position will remain posted until filled.
Okay. So move.
Second.
Commissioner Lemon?
Yes.
Commissioner Claypool?
Yes.
Commissioner Spiller?
Aye.
Okay. Commissioner's Office is requesting the board approve and execute a letter to the city of Chardon.
So moved. What is the letter we're sending?
This is the one I sent you all last week, is essentially, the previous letter with the feasibility study reference removed. So just basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All
On-
right,
on the
good.
wall.
Yeah,
It says,
second.
regarding participation and funding of wall improvements for the northeast corner of the
Gotcha.
Chardon Square.
Yeah, I'm good.
Have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Lemon?
Yeah.
Commissioner Lemon?
Yes.
Commissioner Claypool?
Yes.
Commissioner Spiller?
Aye.
So the Commissioner's Office is requesting the board approve and execute a letter to the employees of the Commissioner's Hiring Authority regarding clarification of activities and expectations with and from the Board of Commissioners.
So move.
Second.
Commissioner Lennon?
Yes.
Commissioner Claypool?
Yes.
Commissioner Spiller?
Aye.
Commissioner's Office is requesting the board cancel the work session on Thursday, December 14, 2017 with Richard L. Bowen and Associates regarding the feasibility analysis and reschedule it for Tuesday, December 19, 2017 at 10:30 a.m.
Make that motion?
Second.
Commissioner Lennon?
Yes.
Commissioner Claypool?
Yep.
Commissioner Spiller?
Aye.
Commissioner's Office is requesting the board schedule regular session on Thursday, January 4th, 2018 due to the New Year's Day holiday, which will include their reorganizational meeting.
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Lennon?
Good.
Commissioner Claypool? Commissioner Spiller?
Aye.
Commissioner's Office is requesting the board schedule regular session on Tuesday, January 9th, 2018.
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Lennon?
Yes.
Commissioner Claypool?
Yep.
Commissioner Spiller?
Aye.
Okay. The next is up to
Is
Dave
the appropriation.
and Adrian.
Booting up, and Adrian's still in back, so while the computer's booting up, I'll go get Adrian.
Did you read this?
I don't know if you wanna.
Read that.
Yeah. I mean, it's, we,
I think it was what we had already drafted, right?
yeah. I mean, it
That was
didn't
the
really
revised
change.
one from
Yeah.
last week.
Yeah. Did you try to call?
Yeah.
Did you just have?
No.
You read the article that you were looking for.
Mm-hmm. Did you send your master?
Mm-mm.
Now, since we're gonna be hitting the wall here, you might wanna
Oh. Ah.
sit in the audience or just move off to the side, so you don't get blinded once we open this thing up.
Is that good? They're too dark.
No, that's good. Okay, good.
Sit in the cheap seats.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go down there too, so I can actually see.
There we go.
Maybe take water with me.
Was that Photoshop with sunshine?
Huh? Yeah.
Looks like that's just when they first finished the construction.
That's a cool building there.
Well, see, yeah, it's unfortunate, it's, they stained it and it got really dark, which is unfortunate, because this was how it was originally built, and just a beautiful building. It was built in 2006.
They could probably strip it and pressure wash it.
They need to do that, because it's, you see how pretty it was, and you go by it now, and it's all real dark.
Right. Getting old like us.
Speak for yourself.
Still opening on high-speed computers.
You could build a library like that, out of the wood.
Yeah, that's right.
Look cool, wouldn't it?
Let's try this again. There we go. All right. Sorry for the delay. Okay, I'm going to do the first couple of slides, and then I'm going to turn it over to Adrian Gorton, who did a lot of the work on this. A lot of the work was also, prep work was done by Ann Rasick, who just left us a couple of weeks ago and did a great job for us while she was here. So we'll go through, this is the annual permanent appropriation, which is the official budget of the county. So I'll go through the process. The Budget Commission certifies revenues that are going to be received in all the accounts in the county budget. And those revenues, along with what we estimate our beginning balance will be at the beginning of January, are the resources. And then commissioners have to take action to appropriate the resources, appropriate the expenditures, and those total appropriations can't be more than the total resources. Now, we're going to be talking primarily about the general fund of the county. And you'll see on another slide further on, the total budget at this point is about over $115 million, of which $32.7 million is the general fund. And this presentation always pretty much focuses on the general fund, because that's really where the discretionary resources are, where commissioners can make decisions about how they're going to prioritize spending and address issues. The additional money out of that 115 over and above the 32, those are all dedicated levy amounts for specific purposes. The engineer, children's services, mental health, senior services, health district, all these other levies that typically the voters are approving make up the balance of that $115 million budget. So we're starting out the budget for the general fund. Again, this is what we're going to be talking about in this presentation. We are estimating the carryover balance to be $5 million. And this was established, we do a tax budget in the spring. And then the commissioners adopt that tax budget. We have budget hearings in the fall where almost all the departments come in and talk about what their needs are. And then based on that, we head into this appropriation process. And we assume a carryover balance of $5 million. So that amount of money adds up to, with the estimated revenues of $27.7, to give us $37.7 million worth of general fund money that the commissioners can take action on to budget for today if they choose to go forward and adopt the appropriation. As you will see, we typically end up with more than $5 million at the end of the year. And that gives us a source of money to spend on things that have not yet been approved. Typically things like capital expenditures, sheriff's cruisers, other equipment that is not a mandated thing, but something we typically have to budget some money for every year. We offer that to the commissioners in January when we know what the actual balance is. And then they make decisions on how to spend that additional money. And that's called a supplemental appropriation. So I'm going to turn it over to Adrian at this point.
Now, those resources were actually about $22,000 lower than they were in the actual tax budget due to a slight decrease in the local government tax revenue, so which is what we get from the state. So on this 2018 permanent appropriations general fund revenue sources, you can see on there that the general fund revenue estimated at $32.7 million. The chart shows that breakdown of the total revenue. Nearly half, that first bar there, is the revenue from the sales tax. Now, this is 13 million or 47% of the total revenue. It's the 1% county portion of the 6.75% sales tax paid in Geauga County right now. The second bar there, just over a quarter, 27%, 7.6 million of that total revenue is coming from the 2.5 mils county general fund portion of the real estate taxes paid. From there, you go into the department fees and fines. These are estimated at 8.4% or 2.3 million for next year. Included in these fees are those charged by the auditor, the building department, courts, recorder, treasurer, board of elections for the services that they provide to residents. The property transfer tax is estimated at 3.6% or 1 million. These are the fees paid when property deeds transfer to new owners. The casino tax, which is 3.07%, or almost $1 million. These are the fees paid from the casino tax. It's set aside for counties, and that amount received is allocated to those counties based on their population. For 2008, that amount is about $850,000. Other there encompasses several items, including rents, gas well proceeds, insurance and other reimbursements, miscellaneous grants, and county auction proceeds. The prisoner housing, there next, the 2.71%, is revenue generated from the housing of inmates at the county jail from other areas. This is set at a relatively conservative $750,000 for 2018. The local government tax, which I just spoke about at the beginning there, is revenue sharing tax that comes back to the counties from the state. It used to be a much higher percentage of the general fund revenue, but has been reduced significantly over the last several years. The casino tax was actually expected to make up the difference, but the casino tax has been pretty unstable from year to year, so it's kind of hard to make up that difference year after year when that revenue source goes up and down so much. And then the cost allocation there, that is a charge back to county departments outside the general fund for services rendered by departments in the general fund. So, okay, next slide, please.
Let me just add a couple comments on here. As Adrian was saying, the casino tax is estimated, what, $850,000. That is very volatile. So that's something that we want to really do. You don't want to count on that revenue because it can go up and down. One of the things that we can talk about is budgetary philosophy. In conservative budgeting, at least in my mind, you're doing two things. You're being very conservative on how much money you think you're going to get in, and you're being a little pessimistic about how much money you think you're going to spend. So in other words, in your budget, you assume to guess low on the money coming in and guess high on the money coming out. And ideally then, in almost every case, the surprises you get are good ones. The prisoner housing, for example, we're estimating that at $750,000. If we maintain a strong usage of our facility, it could end up being double that next year. But we don't want to count on that, because I remember back in 2009, I think we had $1.5 million or $2 million budgeted for prisoner housing. And early in the year, Geauga County was experiencing financial difficulties, as most counties were back during that time. And they called us and said, we're not going to be sending prisoners out there anymore. We're going to put ankle bracelets on them or whatever, because we don't have the money anymore. And that year, we actually had to decertify the revenue. That was one of the rare cases where we expected to get money in, and what we got in ended up falling far short of what we actually got. In most cases, we will typically receive more than we're forecasting here in this revenue estimation.
Thank you for that, Dave. As he said earlier in the presentation, the total permanent appropriations for all funds in 2018, these are all the funds included outside the general fund, is about $115.6 million. This includes, obviously, the general fund at $32.7 million, special revenue funds of $62.7 million, debt service funds of $2 million, capital projects funds of $4.5, enterprise funds of $10.7 million, fiduciary funds $2.3 million, and internal service funds of about $600,000. The general fund permanent appropriations are submitted at $32.7, and the requests received from the departments were at about $35.3 million. The largest items not included, now these were largest.
This is the next slide, right?
That will be, this is just highlighting a few of
Okay,
the
okay.
ones from the general fund.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the largest items not funded, the difference between that $32.7 million and $35.3 million was about $1.3 million in equipment for the Board of Elections. I think they want to replace their scanning equipment, and those scanners are pretty expensive, so we're going to be working with them on a plan to try and get those replaced, figure out what they need.
Isn't that a 10% match or something, or I thought it was pretty
No, it
big.
could be up to an 80% match,
Or-
but you
or
have to.
90%,
have to front the money.
90%.
Yeah, you have to front the money.
Oh, okay.
It's
So
like
you
a
gotta have-
reimbursement.
Yeah.
Right.
There's about $900,000 in sheriff department requests specifically related to funding from inside the general fund. There was also about $235,000 for the maintenance department that was not funded at this point, including some additional jail maintenance, about $102,000 in salary and benefits, and about $62,000 in equipment. Next slide. So this is a pie chart look at the operating expenses by category for the county. As you can see, one thing that kind of surprised me when I looked at this was that the building department is actually part of public safety, but there it is. You got your sheriff, coroner, and building there. You've got your legislative and executive, and that's about 32.3% of the budget. The public safety is about 40%. You've got miscellaneous, you've got health, human services are all down in the single-digit percentages. Your judicial, which is about 17%, includes obviously all the courts, the jury commission, and the public defender's office. And then your recreation, conservation, about 1.8%. So that's the look at the pie chart for the breakdown.
The building department's in public safety because they do the regulation of the buildings to make sure they don't collapse in on you. So I think
That they're
that's-
safe.
Yeah, they're
Yes.
safe.
Right.
So
And that's just related to the general fund. I mean, it kind
Yeah.
of misleading. It makes it look like the health and the human services have small budgets or
Right.
something. They've got huge budgets.
Huge
just not-
budgets, but they're
not affected.
Right, they're coming, I
General
mean,
fund.
the human services is coming from the children's services levy, which we have two levies, both combined bring in $1 million plus.
Mhm.
And then you have all the federal and state money coming in that same way.
Mhm.
Conservation, recreation, I believe that is soil and water and the OSU extension. I think that's what those two, I think that's what's in those.
Yeah, and again, that's just the general fund. So there's a number of funds that meet those general descriptions there as well that are outside the general fund as well. So, yeah, their budgets are a lot higher, but as far as the general
As far as-
fund is concerned, that's the portion that they
Right.
get. Okay, as we said earlier as well, the estimated cash balance that we're looking at the beginning of the year is about $8.7 million. Typically, our carryover encumbrances are around $800,000. This is going to leave a balance of about $7.9 million, and the carryover estimated at $5 million, leaving the $2.9 million for unfunded requests and the restoration of the contingency balance.
So yeah, as long as, just to kind of restate that as well. So you start with the 8.7. We're projecting and looking at our cash in the general fund. You look at where it is today. You look at how you typically spend money in December, and you project and say, okay, by the end of December, we should be sitting on about $8.7 million worth of cash. Then that encumbrances, those are purchase orders. Those are where we've made commitment to spend money, but we haven't actually spent the cash yet. So that's committed money, so you gotta take that out of there. So now you're down to 7.9. And then the 5 million, again, we have in the tax budget, we assumed and we accounted for 5 million already that we were gonna get that. So you can't spend it twice, so you gotta pull that out of there. So now you're down to 2.9 million, it's available for supplemental appropriations. Once we get into January, we know what the actual balance is. We typically have 3% of general fund contingency. So if your general fund is around $30 million plus, you can put in $900,000 total in the contingency. In our budget, we start with, I think, 350 or something like that. 300. So we want to get that back up because contingency is routinely used throughout the year for things that come up that you can't plan for. Give you an example. One year we got a notice from the state of Ohio. We just discovered that you were getting sales tax on this one big box store, and we determined that, it's not in Geauga County, so you gotta give us that money back. And that could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that's one of the reasons you gotta have a fairly sizable contingency to cover those things you just can't budget for.
We had an elevator went out this year, we had
Elevator
air
went.
conditioners at the
Yep.
safety center that went out. We have all these things that come up, which,
Yeah,
who can anticipate an
Difficult to plan for.
Right.
or the elevator going
the
out?
big
Yeah.
surprises.
So,
Yeah.
big surprises.
And over the years, we kind of keep a running total of, okay, this is where the contingency went this year, because that's a good question.
Do me a
Why do you
favor-
need that much?
Do me a favor for the sake of the folks in the peanut gallery, to find supplemental, we're using a lot of technical terms.
Yes, I know.
And I would get lost.
Yep.
And I don't know how many people have an interest, but define in layman's terms what that means.
Again, let's go back to what can you budget for? What can you plan to spend? You can plan to spend the cash you start with and what you're estimated to be receiving over the year. And the Budget Commission determines that amount. So that's the total amount. So again, in this budget, we're assuming $5 million of carryover cash and 27 point whatever in revenue. And once you know what you actually have on hand, now the Budget Commission will do a new certificate of resources that reflects the actual resources you have available. So today, we're asking the commissioners to pass the permanent appropriation, but as additional money becomes available, as long as you don't exceed the total resources that have been currently certified by the Budget Commission, you can do what's called a supplemental. You can appropriate more. In some of our accounts, we don't appropriate the whole amount that's been certified because it's not known to be used or to be needed. It just sits there as an unappropriated balance. Typically, in the general fund, we do appropriate the entire amount, but it's available in places like contingency and transfers out, where as these things come up, we have the money available. So again, a supplemental is just an additional appropriation to budget money that has now shown up that we weren't counting on. One of the things that can happen during the year is if suddenly we received a chunk of money from a source that wasn't in the budget, we can go to the Budget Commission and say, we'd like you to certify that money as additional resources. And if you do that, then you can do a supplemental appropriation on that. Is that, I know it still sounds kind of technical, but does anybody have any further questions on that? Because I like people to understand the whole process as much as possible. Any other questions? Okay.
Do we have a fund that we can go buy lottery tickets? Because you never know where we can.
That's right.
Pick up some extra cash, you never know.
Yeah, well,
Way more losers than
more,
winners.
yeah.
10 grand a year or
Yeah,
something?
yeah.
Okay, so this slide here is the total, I would say delayed funding requests maybe at this point for some of these. They include requests funded by transfers from the general fund, are also included in those numbers, so that's why the sheriff number I said before, which was 900,000, that was just requests that weren't funded at this time from the general fund. There are certain projects or things that he requested that are funded by the general fund, but that funding takes place outside of the general fund, so that would be the total. But you have, the ADP board, about 89,000, auditor, about 25. That Board of Elections number, again, are those vote scanners that they're looking to get and replace.
Outside of the scanners, what would that Board of Elections number normally be?
Oh, probably in line probably with the other departments.
Yeah, I mean, in a
that are up
typical
there.
year, again, a lot of this is capital requests. Like,
Yes.
the sheriff is always gonna ask for X number of cruisers, and we'll look at that and maybe pare it down a little bit. Maybe, and we typically don't even put any capital. What we're trying to cover in the permanent appropriation primarily is the ongoing operation, which is largely salaries and benefits. You know, we have a commitment to employ people, and they, you know, they're in positions. And so the first reality check is, do you have enough money available to continue to employ the staff you have and pay their benefits and whatnot? And then, over time, when you get the carryover balance, then you know what other things you can cover, whether it's things like capital equipment, salary increases. You know, in the general fund, a 3% salary increase is gonna be what, several hundred thousand?
About $500,000.
About $500,000. And that would be one of the things that, going forward, that the commissioners will be asked to make a decision on the new year, and that'll all be based on what's available and what the priorities are.
The big thing to be mindful of that is something that never goes backwards. Once you appropriate, you know,
Yep.
that, you know, increase, that is part of it now.
Becomes part of the.
Yeah, so.
Unless
Yeah.
people retire and you replace them
Right.
with lower paid people, but generally that number just keeps going up.
Going on, yeah.
Yep.
So you have, a lot of these are relatively small amounts, you know, your juvenile court and probate court numbers there, that's more delayed funding than actual unfunded requests, just trying to fit their budget request into what the tax budget was. We'll be working with them on getting that appropriated. The maintenance number there, I covered that. Your OSU co-op extension public defender and obviously the sheriff. That's the total amount that we've been working with them on, so. Next slide.
Let me ask you, Dave, you know, with revenues being flat over the last 10 years and raises continually going up, cost of living continually going up, I mean, the buck's gotta stop somewhere. Either you're gonna start laying people off or cutting back, or, I mean,
Right.
you know, I mean, if it's a $500,000 a year with a 3% increase every year,
Yeah, eventually it's gonna catch up with you. You know, there's some inflationary increase, but, you know, there's a lot of accounts you can't count on. And that's kind of the challenge, and that's why I've always felt like we need to be working harder on our technology side to
yeah,
make us more productive, that ultimately maybe your head count goes down.
that's right.
And, you know, so individual pay rates probably don't go down, but the number of people you're employing doesn't have to be as high as you get technology to make individuals more productive.
That's, that, you know, that, I see that as being a hurdle at some point.
Absolutely.
We're gonna have to cross that bridge, you know.
And they call that, in
Yeah.
local government, they call that the new normal.
Yeah.
That, you know, when Governor Kasich really cut that local government fund, which was based on the state sales tax, cut that in half. You know, it used to be, you know, 1.2 million plus, and now it's around $600,000. And he did the same thing to the townships. If anything, the townships were hurt more by those cuts. So you have local government all up and down the line that is seeing pressures all the time with prices going up
Right.
and revenues are flat. And you
Right.
have to figure out how to be innovative and more productive and make each dollar go further.
I have a quick question. Who and where determines the 3% increase in raises for the employees?
It's based on review of the cost of living. It's based on, we only have a couple of public service unions in Geauga County. The sheriff has a large one, our water resources department has a smaller one. And they will typically negotiate contracts going out a couple of years in the future. So that's part of the benchmark that the commissioners will look at, and also just looking at the general level of salaries at the county compared to other employers in the area. But basically, the commissioners are not going to approve, even if it appears that a raise would be warranted based on all those factors I just mentioned. If the money's not in the budget, there may not be a raise. I mean, in my time here, we've had a couple of years when there was a freeze. There was no raise given because the money wasn't there.
So there have been freezes. How about a step up kind of increase, maybe this year 1%, next year 2%, or so you start off at 2% this year, you go to 1% and 0% the next year, and so on. There are companies and government agencies that do that.
Sure. I mean, and there's two kind of raises that are typical, you know, I mean, everywhere, but especially in the public sector. there's a, where you increase the whole salary schedule by a flat amount. And then you typically have employee grades depending on your job, and then there's steps within the grades. And you can have, in some years, you might not raise the whole schedule, you might provide a step increase for the people whose performance merits a step increase. Where some public sector employers get into trouble is they'll raise the whole schedule, so they'll do like a cost of living raise, and then they'll provide step increases. And now you're seeing increases in the payroll going way above inflation. This is why, typically, at least in my experience, my observation, schools get into trouble because that happens a lot. In the county, we only do one or the other. We don't do a general cost of living and a step.
Right.
Now, at least, we may, because this board's been looking specifically at things like merit increases. So you say if the budget looks like you can justify a 3% increase in the budget, you might mix up and say, we're going to raise the overall schedule maybe by 1%, and then we're going to use that other 2% and make it performance-based, and try and come up with evaluations where the high performers may be getting greater than 2%, and the low performers or average performers may be getting nothing or maybe 1%. To make those raises kind of provide more of a motivation to employees.
Okay, any other questions? Going into the last slide here, just some good news about the general fund. The remaining $2 million of debt for the 800 megahertz radio system was paid off in August of this year. The general fund is currently debt-free, and we are cautiously looking to the future as the county assesses our needs for future capital projects based on the
Feasibility
feedback.
study.
Feasibility study.
Feasibility study. Okay. And that is the presentation. Any other questions?
May I have a copy of the presentation?
Sure. Yeah.
Thank
Good
you.
job, Adrian. Yeah.
Thank you.
We're gonna have this. Here.
He's got it.
Thank you.
In contrast, I might add to Geauga County is $1 billion in debt.
Yeah.
Our poor buddies over at Trumbull County too, they're not in debt yet, but in trouble.
There are some counties that budget debt.
Yeah.
And, I'm very pleased with our board because we don't.
Well, you hear of NOACA now budgeting debt.
Yeah,
So
they're-
now you're financing roads, and that's
Through
not
debt.
something that lasts terribly long.
Yeah.
To me, that's personally kind of concerning that you're financing something that may have a life of only 10 years, and then you're financing it for longer than it's good.
Yeah, that's just not realistic. You couldn't do that with your company.
Do we have to have a motion on the appropriation?
So yes, the Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board approve and execute Resolution Number 17-153 for the permanent annual appropriation for 2018 in accordance with ORC 5705.3 and 5705.40.
Quick question, is everybody in? I know there was a couple stragglers that just turned their stuff in like yesterday or something.
Yeah.
I mean, if we approve this today, do we have to make amendment to it, or?
There's probably going to be some sort of process in the supplemental late in January where we have to make some adjustments in order to accommodate everything that was requested.
Okay,
And
but even.
we'll do that.
Okay,
But it literally, he's putting the finishing touches on this, and we got a final budget submission, and he was able to go back and make the adjustments to ensure that all the payroll accounts were covered.
right,
Because typically, there's line items in there where they're asking for money for the year. They don't need the money in January, they need it over the years.
Right.
But we'll have it all in place by early January, mid-January, I'd say.
okay.
Yep.
All right, so moved.
Second.
Commissioner Lennon?
Yes.
Commissioner
It's one
Claypool?
of these books.
What is it? I don't even know. You guys.
We're sending a lot
Yeah,
of books,
the-
I think here's who they go to.
Each of you get one, Dave gets one, the Commissioner's clerk gets one, I get one, auditor, treasurer, and then I think Ron Leidy gets one, and I think that's about it. There's about 9 that get distributed.
Okay,
This document just lists expenditures. what I like about the tax budget document that we do in July is it kind of tells the history. It shows you, it goes back 2 years,
Right.
like for this year's tax budget, it's got all of 15's actual receipts, expenditures, ending balance. And that ending balance starts on 16. You got all that balance plus receipts, expenditures, ending balance. And then starts 17 with the correct beginning balance. And for 17, then there's an estimate of expenditures and estimated ending balance, and then the budget for next year. So the tax budget is kind of cool in that it kind of tells a story over time of how the money came in and how it was spent and where the balances were. Where this is just a spending budget in the permanent appropriation.
Working on my trigger for your.
I see. Commissioner Claypool, can I have your vote, please? Your vote,
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier.
Aye.
So,
That's all right.
Okay, and number 22, Commissioners Office will request the board discuss NACOG Business Resource Network, BRN grant.
Craig is here.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, good.
Good.
Thank you for having me here today. So I was just invited to come back and update you where we're at. The NOCCOG board is looking for an account executive to be the face of a workforce to the business communities. We have one appointed in Ashtabula, we have one appointed in Portage. In both cases, it is a 501c3 organization. In Ashtabula, it's Ashtabula Growth, and Portage is Portage Development Board. But notably, those two counties do not have a public economic development office as Geauga County does. So we are looking to repeat the same here in Geauga County. Luckily, this county does have that office, and that would be our first choice to represent to the business community the face of workforce development. I have met with Ms. Stocker on a number of occasions and talked to her about that possibility because her office is under the purview and guidance of the commissioners and our offices as well too. We would not need to competitively procure a negotiated agreement. We could just work something out. We've had kind of initial discussions, and she has represented her position to me as follows. She has indicated to me that she would be willing to be the county account executive and represent workforce development, work with our business resource network, primarily on two conditions. Condition number one would be that should her office be restored to its whole capacity. I believe she's down a 0.5 FTE that she had previously. She feels that if she had that particular staff member on board, that would help her carry out the mission that we're asking her to do.
Craig, not to interrupt.
Yes.
I think that almost this is like hearsay because if anything, why is Anita not here right now?
I can't speak to that.
Because if we're gonna have this discussion, then let's have this discussion with all parties here instead of he say, she say.
Sure.
I
I thought she was gonna be here.
I mean,
So, that was the indication that I had received, that the both of you would be.
Because I don't wanna hear it from you and then I don't wanna hear it from her. This is not good.
I understand.
I agree with you.
I don't want to be speaking for her either.
Right.
No.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Craig, could I ask what's the source of this grant money? Is it a federal thing or is it a state
It is
thing?
our standard, what we call formula dollars. It's the annual appropriation we receive every year from, it comes down from the Department of Labor, goes to the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services.
She's coming.
And then in turn is
So it's
awarded
federal
to
money?
Area 19. Yes, it is federal
And
money.
so are there federal
Which we're gonna do.
requirements
Yeah.
of what that money is supposed to be used for?
Oh, certainly, and we believe that this is consistent with those.
Okay, thank you.
Did you get a hold of her?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Her and Kelly are coming.
Okay.
And of course,
So-
we are also seeking additional grant dollars all the time to support the Business Resource Network. We're in that process as
So
well. too.
have you talked to Geauga Growth Partnership about this at all, or no?
We went out for competitive bid twice in the last number of years. Both times, I expressly invited Geauga Growth to bid on it, and they declined.
What do you mean by bid on it?
Well, in the past, we had never received any indication that Geauga
Oh, I see.
Economic Development
Okay.
was interested.
Yeah.
So we were looking for an alternative provider to do it. Because, we're not using the Economic Development, it had to be competitively bid. So it went out under an RFP process.
It does, okay.
Yes,
Okay.
typically, we can bypass that if we're.
If it was county.
So the rules, just, and this is my takeaway, the rules are different if we're doing business with the county versus
Correct.
if we're doing business with a private organization. So there's more complexity.
And I had a question related to that. Do you remember, it used to be CGI Federal. Denise DeMasi
Yes.
was a full-time employee.
Absolutely.
How much did Knockout pay CGI Federal to do this work a year?
Typically, when we were compensating them, we would be in the ballpark of around $70,000 to $80,000 a year.
We're only talking 20,000.
Correct, and the primary differences back then is we had a special federal grant to pilot this and bring this to the area. That specialized federal grant has gone, and so now we're dealing with our formula fund, so it's a lower amount. And it is the same thing across all three counties. We're typically paying those organizations between $70,000 and $90,000 a year. The budget now in Portage County is $45,000 annually. The budget in Ashtabula is $50,000 annually, and the budget we're talking about in Geauga is about $20,000 annually.
So we may lose Portage because they're seeking to go to, is that going to impact the funding for these programs?
Well, we use their money, so I would say no if we lose them, but I don't think we're going to lose Portage County. To lose Portage County, Geauga and Ashtabula would both have to vote to let them leave the area workforce. And my recommendation to all the commissioners has been that we would gladly let them leave if we found a replacement for them, but that is unlikely to occur. So.
Okay, so, sorry, go ahead.
So Anita, thanks for coming over.
Sure.
As you guys did, we just felt that it would be easier to have a discussion with all parties on board with this than have, just to go back to you and just to
Right.
put everything on the table.
Okay.
So,
Do you want to go ahead and what's your explanation here?
So, Ms. Stalker and I have had several conversations, and what she has expressed to me, and then she can explain if I've misstated it, but it's my understanding is that her first staff was made whole to its previous levels. I believe it's an additional 0.5 FTE, and we could make the current contract more manageable, more simplified, that this might be a project that we can work together. And certainly they are our first choice to work with, for us to work with. And so it would be my recommendation, my board meets tomorrow, is to give additional time to see if that indeed could happen so that we could enter into a contract. And then, if it doesn't occur, say, in the next 60 days or so, at that point, then I would probably ask my board to go out, put this back out for bid.
Yeah, in a nutshell, that's basically it. We couldn't take on additional, even though we do the business and retention now, we'd want to do it much more regimented than we do now, with a more acceptable data collection and preservation, and to share the data in a way that, right now, we pretty much just keep everything in-house to what we need. And this is going to be more spelled out, which is, that's great, but we're going to need more hands.
Horsepower.
Yeah, to do that, to
Yeah.
achieve it. So, yeah, if we could be made whole, and I also understand, the contract needs a lot of work, but I think we could probably work with it if we keep the back section and rework the front.
A lot of what's in there in the contract is obviously for our protection, and it's a contract drafted off of a model when we're not dealing with other county entities, because we're talking about a contract between two entities that are under the purview of the commissioners. We can simplify the contract.
So in layman's terms, it sounds like, this $20,000 is going to generate a lot more work than
Well, yeah.
what you're able to.
Well, it'll be,
So
what he wants us to see is 4 companies a month. And then the data collection is shared
Okay.
with everybody, but, we're gonna have to work on how much.
I know there's a
shared.
lot more requirements than just that.
The
There's
contract's pretty
I read the list
broad.
of, Kelly explained too. And I'm not opposed to the one thing I don't wanna do is put you guys in a trick bag where all of a sudden we've taken this grant, now all of a sudden
Yeah,
we're not able to fulfill our duty.
We're running as fast as we can.
So we're either do it right,
Yeah.
or, but don't do it, half-hearted. you know.
Yeah, and this is time of
Yeah.
year, we're winding everything up, and we won't really get into high gear again until, I don't know, maybe April-ish. But then we're, really busy
Yeah.
through the summer. So right now, I can say, if we're made whole, we can easily handle this. But then we're gonna have hot spots during the summer, that's gonna be hard to hit that, it's gonna be hard, but we need to do it. I mean, it's something that we know our office has to do. And then we have the whole transition thing, so I'm basically dumping the ball on Kelly. So you gotta worry about that. How is the transition with the offices and the meshing? What is that? How does that impact it? So there's a lot of things in play, and until we know what the game plan is or the timeline, I can say what could work now, if we're whole, that we could do it. And then as time, I mean, at what point does this happen so we can do this then? So right
I mean,
now,
is this
we could.
a full-time position? I mean, it sounds to me, making these appointments, say, for a month, right? But there's other reporting that needs to be done, administrative, right?
Sure, I mean.
But setting up appointments with these different companies locally, right? Going
Yeah.
and talking to them.
Oh, yeah.
It's federal dollars, so there are federal strings, but basically the concept is we are asking them to try. The goal is for them to meet with 4 different businesses a month, basically to have a conversation with them about their challenges and opportunities, and then that intelligence, that economic development intelligence that their office has the specialty to gather, would be shared with any people that are in the Business Resource Network and in any other agencies that.
Referrals would be made and.
Yep, and the whole idea is to share this intelligence instead of asking workforce to go out and meet with business separately, and the Department of Transportation and Workers' Comp. All these entities can basically benefit from the intelligence that's gathered by the Economic Development Office. And so the idea is that's worth something, their time and services, and so we want to compensate them for that.
I see.
And again, it's to unify and to share this intelligence, and also not to confuse and overburden the businesses by having multiple individuals call
Yeah.
upon them. We don't want to do that.
Yeah, and this, since they're not using the synchronicity system, which is like a 20-page questionnaire that the business wants to kill themselves by the time they get done with the
Yes.
survey.
Yeah.
And we're not obligated to use that survey. We can do the conversation we normally do and pull things out, tease things out, just, meet.
But who
And,
wants to talk to you guys?
It's hard. It's hard to get in the
And to
door.
get 4 people times 12, 48 businesses?
Yeah. Well, that is our goal, what we try to do anyhow.
Right.
But it's hard to make the appointment, because who wants to talk to government?
It's a tough sell.
Who wants to talk to
Yeah.
government?
We're here for the government, we're here to
Yeah,
help
I
you.
know.
It's a hard sell. It is.
I guess what's the value?
Well, the one thing that works is the more calls you make, when somebody finally does say, yeah, I want to talk to you, you can go there and find out what their issues are. There's not a lot of people like that. But, if you hit the right one, they really let you have it, and you can, hopefully, it's a zoning thing, or it's something that you can try to help them with.
Right.
So, is maybe that one that you get them off the hot seat, and is that worth it? It could be.
But I guess, it's like, I guess my concern is there's a, like 2 businesses right now in the county, one in Chesterland that's like, has 60 employees that are gonna be gone from the
Yeah.
county. And it's like, they're moving to Solon, and, that from what I gathered through the woodwork, the mayor of that town really worked hard to be
They're
able to
aggressive.
get their business into that community. And it's like, okay, now that's gone from our county. Another one supposedly in Auburn that's moving to Twinsburg or
classic.
somewhere, and it's
Our
like,
neighbors right here that are moving
So-
in.
Yeah.
so it's like, how do we,
Get ahead of it,
right?
yeah.
But that kind of makes the case for us doing more of this. We've talked about changing Department of Economic Development to be more proactive, to do outreach. For
Yeah.
a while, you and I were going out and we were talking to businesses.
Yep.
We were well received. When we went into
Yeah.
the businesses and we talked to them, they wanted to talk to us. They wanted to find out if there was something that we could do
Yeah,
to
we
help
could
them,
help.
and they would
Everyone-
share with us and so.
For everyone that says, yeah, come out, you have like 6 who are like,
Sure.
Right.
no way.
Yeah.
But the
So
more,
it's,
the more you're out
yeah.
talking to people, the
Right.
more you
It's
learn about how to
invaluable once you
approach
get
people. You
in
start
there,
developing
yeah.
the network and so on and so forth. And over time, that will help us to keep the
Yeah.
folks from leaving
Yeah.
to go to.
But I guess the
so-
concern is, okay, we're getting $20,000 to
Yeah.
do this. It's
It's
nothing.
not the money.
And,
It's-
and,
it's
and
not
how
the
much
money.
reporting is required? What kind of strings are
Well,
attached?
that's,
And-
the first 23 pages of the contract, we can't do what's there. If it was the old program that Denise did, we wouldn't touch it.
Right.
Because that would consume our office.
Mhm.
If we're allowed, the way his funding is now, he will let us do what we normally do and just send them what we would normally collect.
Right, but my understanding was, the requirements were actually a little bit more entailed than just what it's kind of coming across. Am I wrong or am I right?
The way it was with the synchronicity system, we couldn't do it and wouldn't do it either. It
That's where the
was not
confusion
a-
is. The confusion was over that bid that went out, because that was a complicated system.
Yeah.
Given that we're doing business with our own county, and the process, and this is what
Yeah.
got everything all buggered up,
Mhm.
it got a lot more simplified. And we can work together to determine what works best.
Right.
Well,
The board
he's
was-
saying that we could change this
Right.
first half of the contract.
We can.
There's a lot of things in here we won't do. So the contract still needs to be worked on so that we can control.
But he's meeting with his board tomorrow.
Well, I mean,
Business board. so.
step one is, can we do it if we're whole? And step two is, will we agree on a contract? We might not. We might not be able to. There's a lot of things in there, I don't even know if legally we could do, whether we wanted to or not.
Right, and so I guess, I guess the bottom line is we need to make a decision to put this to rest one way or another. Because it's just taken a lot of time to keep on regurgitating this.
Well,
And I think that we just, my concern is that if there's some mandates that are set up as far as reporting mandates that the federal government is putting into place and some of the strings that are attached, I don't want to put, nor do I think the other two members of this board want to put our county in a jeopardized position of, not following to what is required and then all of a sudden come back and we made a mistake.
Yeah,
And
you're
we
right.
made a mistake based on the fact that we just want to try something. I want to be 100% or nothing.
Okay.
Yeah, and to add to that, I agree. I think we're talking about the right things here, being more proactive and talking 100%. I'm just saying, are we gonna go at it, standing on two feet here or not? Let's get all of our, let's get this thing going full go. If you need more employees, maybe we need to talk about that, more outreach, But I think,
I think outreach is always a good strategy.
yeah.
I'm on the same page with Ralph. I'm probably closest because I haven't sit on the board and I've heard I've had the advantage of all the conversations we've been having, and I've beat up Greg on this a little bit in terms of, and I really don't like federal oversight on it. But from what I've heard, at least my understanding of this is basically what we're doing anyway.
Mhm.
And we're just sharing information. If it's something other than that, I want to know that.
No, that's-
But
that
if
is
that's what it is,
exactly what I think it
then-
is.
Then we benefit jointly out of doing this, because we're going to be doing this anyway. We're required by the mandate.
Correct.
in the
Provide business
programs
services.
to go out and do this. We're either going to do it through our department here, or we are going to do it through somebody else that doesn't have our vested interest at heart.
And I
that's
don't
a
want to
concern
create
that I have,
competition or confusion. I mean, like you said, it's hard enough to get in the door of businesses. I don't want two people knocking on the doors of businesses. I would just really like your economic development office. We can also, because we're piloting this, we can put a walk-away clause. I mean, if this turns out to be a disaster, if it doesn't work out from Ms. Stalker's office, if you have concerns, we can walk away, and then I can always go back and put this back out, for bid on the competitive market. But I would really like to try it. Since you do have an economic development office, I would love to work with them. I will make it as easy on them as possible. We will keep the restrictions to a minimum. We're really just looking for them to have these conversations with the businesses and to share that intel. There, yes, there are some requirements because it is federal money, but not the same as that existed under those old grants. And so I would love to give it a try if it does receive your support.
I guess my position is I'm looking for direction from you and Kelly to what you guys would recommend, because obviously you guys are gonna be the ones that are gonna be dealing with this.
Well, can we get Jessica back in the office full-time?
Well, I think that we would kinda have to wait till planning commission happens next Thursday, when you're gonna be making maybe some discussions as far as decisions on that, as far as.
Well, it would hinge on
Sure,
that.
yeah.
And,
I think that's the goal, I mean.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it is,
yeah.
absolutely.
Is she gonna be the one out doing that?
no,
No.
but we need her in the office. and,
So
yeah.
the conversations I've been hearing in the planning commission and elsewhere is that our plan was to make you whole. That was the plan, unless I hear.
I mean, I feel like a lot of this is contingent on these hires that we have out. We're waiting for people, like this assistant county administrator.
Yeah.
If that was in place, I'd be
Yeah.
like, let's go.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
there's so
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
emotion
Yeah.
that it's really hard.
Yeah.
And the other thing we know is that right now the grant fund says we can do anything we want with it, but when you get your other funding back, then it all changes again and it goes back to
I'm
more
not
restrictions.
sure. I mean,
Okay.
yes, typically in the past, the grant has required things to be put into the synchronous system. We get the grant money, that might come back. But that doesn't necessarily mean we have to use the synchronous survey. It just would mean that the data would have to end up in the system.
That becomes onerous.
But let's cross that bridge when and if we come to it,
There was, Craig had brought up earlier that there's a window here, there's no burning bush to get the contract signed. We work through the contract and us sort out what we're gonna do with planning commission in terms of getting that half an FTE back or whatever, even more than that probably. So we've got a little time. If we're in agreement that conceptually this is a good idea, then we can work toward that end, have Laura, you guys don't spend a lot of time other than saying this is what we want to do, and then letting the legal staff, wrangle through that, and then work toward that end, or not. I mean, I'm kind of in the mindset that I want to cut or fish or cut bait, also,
Yeah.
because we need to move on as a board,
we
we
need
have
to
meetings.
move on.
Right. So
But my board would, I think if I explain tomorrow and say, listen, we're on the pathway and it looks like we have a chance to secure a deal, my board would say, well, give it a little bit more
Right.
time if that's what's needed. But yes, eventually, my board would want to, fish or cut bait.
At the end of the day, if we're looking out for what's best for the folks in Geauga County, I think the solution is probably what's best for Geauga County, rather than having some unknown entity in here working around. But, I mean, that's just my personal take on it.
Linda, did you have a comment?
I did have a question for Craig. I reviewed the RFP that went out to the other entities and under which I assume they're going to fulfill the requirements of the grant. And it said that you had to do the interview, you had to draft an overview of the challenges and opportunities and submit them to the NOCCOG. And the NOCCOG is supposed to develop a customized proposal. Okay, is that still all going to be required?
Yes, absolutely.
So those are the things we would have to do.
Correct.
And then schedule follow-up discussions and meetings and make sure that everybody follows the okay, so they're gonna have to do all that stuff.
Yes, correct. But you have to understand, some of that is done by our office as well, too. It's really what we're asking you to do is gather the intelligence, put it in a challenge and opportunities form, comes to my office. My office then makes sure it's shared with the partners. The partners then feedback what they would be willing to, put together in the form of a plan of assistance. My office puts that together, gives it to your office, who then communicates it to the business that you call upon.
And then they track the results and serves as the ongoing primary contact.
Correct.
So they have to fulfill the requirements of the RFP.
Yes, I don't think that
Okay.
I said anything else, but I think that's relatively
No, yeah,
simple
I guess the
process.
question is how cumbersome is this, and what are we getting out of it at the end of the day? I
Well,
think,
like Ralph said, I leave it, because I don't know. There's a reason for reaching out to Kelly and Nita, because I
Right.
don't know. I'm stupid on this stuff.
I mean, when you say
It's like I
20,
was
tell
saying,
us.
right, if you do it right now in our soul time, and we're made whole, we're fine. But then as we get into summer, when everything ramps up.
Right.
Then we got some gaps, so we're not gonna, and we talked to Craig about it, then we have trying to get out and visiting, might not hit the quota.
Mhm.
So,
Let me-
in the way we are now.
Let me ask you.
So they're gonna take your birthday
And
away.
if I'm not here, I mean, you've
Right.
got a transition coming.
Well, yeah,
up.
yeah, that too. We haven't even talked about that, but the $20,000 is, where did they come up with that number? Is that based on what?
It was just a general number that my board set, you know.
Would they be willing to bump that up to, so we could?
60?
Yeah.
I think it's a
What is the price?
I can hear Craig Swenson and Margo. It's hard
I mean,
to-
'cause I'm thinking if we're gonna do this, let's do it right? And if we're gonna do it,
Yes.
let's get a designated,
We need commitment on both sides.
yeah. If you can, we'd be willing to pony up, and if you guys are willing to pony up, I'd be it's up to you. But saying, let's get a designated person that really is the face of the county, interacting with businesses full
We had with
time.
Denise, but now it'd be an employee of
Yeah,
any
it could
department.
be.
Yeah.
So then,
But she's
Understood.
going
if
$20,000
you
to
think that
do
that's a
that.
What
possibility,
do you
then
think?
why don't we try to do that?
The only concern and reservation I have on that is with the fact that we don't have extra money. So that means that we'd have to sit down with budgets already committed for, primarily with the Portage County Department of Job and Family Services. They're the other recipients of our adult and dislocated worker funds. And I know they had a lot of plans to do specialized, trucking cohort that's, they've already have 50 individuals in the county that are interested in that, and we're looking to put that RFP out soon. I don't know if we could get anywhere near 60,000.
I'll tell you what, we'll put up, I can't speak for these two. You go get us another 20, we'll put up a 20, and we'll go hire a full-time employee for economic development. And that is, their job will be, huh?
An employee, yeah.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Right? And, this should be being done anyway, as far as I'm concerned. We should have somebody out there interacting kind of on a daily basis with business, that should be the face of the county, helping them kind of, I know the Geauga Growth Partnership has kind of filled that vacuum. They're only dealing with certain businesses, that's the difference. That's a dues-paying organization. They're not dealing with everybody, So this should be, I've been seeing it since I walked in the door here. Are we marketing ourselves, or are we doing, we just kind of, a chicken lands on our head and we're having chicken for dinner. This is what, that's what, some of it's been, and like these businesses leaving, that's a bit, that was a surprise to me, and after the fact, we shouldn't be knowing about that after the fact. We should know way ahead of time that they wanted to expand, and there's plenty of places to expand in Geauga County. So I'm all for bumping up the horsepower on this whole economic development department. I think that's kind of what we were leaning towards over the last year. We've all, maybe this is an opportunity to take these dollar amounts and
Sure.
and allocate it towards.
It's just with the 20, it's hard to start anything.
Well, yeah. The
You can't
number.
put gas in the car to go to
Right.
the visits for that.
That's right.
Well, if this board is committed and you think that even with the challenges of getting in the door, it's something that would justify a full-time position, I would certainly go to my board and go to Craig and Margo and express your offer. So, it is certainly a concept I believe in. That I wouldn't be here if I didn't
Absolutely.
think that we needed to be out there actively engaging businesses and to be doing it with one face and sharing the information across all of the government
Absolutely.
agencies.
This would be one of their main focuses. They can do other things for the department, obviously, but other counties and townships, for that matter, are aggressively out marketing themselves. Like little Concord Township with 25,000 people, 30,000 people. They are hustling. They are out there looking for right, but they're looking for who they want to come.
And they've always been doing that, but they've been very successful
Yeah.
in what they've done, and even more so now. So,
Yeah.
And we might be able to get some dollars from JFS to also put into this, to share the cost if it's going towards, like with Margo, to be able to have that.
Yeah.
That's an excellent point.
That's a great
because
idea.
There are dollars that are allocated on the displaced worker, and, you know, I challenge that system. There's some things in there that I'm not all that pleased with. But maybe we can shift some dollars around in there, I don't know. But-
Okay. So if I hear you right, what you're saying is we could support a $40,000 annual budget. The county might be able to come up with an additional $20,000 and support a $60,000 annual budget.
It's sounding more favorable.
Yeah, that sure does.
And Anita's saying, no.
There's
I'll take the 20.
there's a lot of potential things that could happen with that, so,
Yeah.
very good.
I will take that to our
All
board
right,
tomorrow.
that sounds like a plan.
Thank you.
So
Thank you,
Yeah,
Anita.
we'll
I
go
appreciate you coming out.
tomorrow, and we'll find out tomorrow at 40, and then to the drawing board.
Right.
No,
We gotta work on the agreement.
Flesh it out with also some sort of organizational.
Yes, they are.
Big
like
business
that.
board,
Yes.
and then we have the guys.
And then not
Kelly,
calling for
first
21
21.
pages.
You think that's-
You're gonna,
I'm throwing
Yeah,
out the
that's
first
more
22
like-
pages.
22 pages.
Yeah.
That's more like what I had
Yeah.
envisioned, you know,
I mean-
obviously we wanna bump up, that's a priority of our office, is to bump up the BRNE part of our
Yeah.
office. You
Yeah.
know, that needs to be a focus.
I agree.
And we talk about it and we plan it, and we already have a rapport with a lot of companies
Mhm.
in Geauga County. I don't want to change that report and go in as a government face instead of
You know-
a resource to them.
Absolutely.
You know, here's
You
an
hit it on the
interesting
head.
point to make. Yeah, we got some businesses leaving.
Yeah.
We also got some businesses coming.
Exactly.
In
Yeah, we do.
Chesterland, we got that
It's
brand new
always in
parents
motion, but-
that's coming up
We're
here.
always
But why
working
are they
behind the
coming?
doors of
Yeah.
companies
Yeah.
too
No,
that
no,
call
the
us
point that I'm trying to make
confidentially.
is, we've got now businesses coming, so we should do outreach to them immediately.
Yep.
Look, you're coming into our county, we want to
And
let you
even
know we're
exit
available.
That's right.
interviews,
I mean, look at
just like
the,
employees,
right.
just find
Look at the
out.
place being built over
Could've.
on Fairmount, okay?
The Holly Hill type
Right.
thing,
Yeah.
I mean, we got all kinds of
Yeah.
new things going on here, so yeah, we got some people, but that's kind of natural give and take
It's
in
always in
business, so.
flux, but you want to know that it wasn't because everything wasn't researched. I mean,
That's
you
right.
could work with a company for years and they still end up
Yeah.
leaving, because at the end of the day, you know,
Yeah.
there's things that you can't,
but you need to
provide
be,
them.
it's a
but,
competitive world and we need to be fighting
Right,
for it.
we need to
you
be
know.
in the ring.
Yeah, and not
I
just
agree,
kind of on the
yeah.
sidelines, like,
It's like,
okay, great, a
yeah,
company's
yeah.
coming, and, oh, they're leaving.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
we gotta be a part of that
Right,
discussion,
right.
you know, so.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank
Yep,
you.
cool. Thank you.
Okay, that's it, so we have a motion to adjourn.
Real quick about the schedule next, this, what is it, the 14th, I think? We're going to look at the,
Yes.
The
You
not-
have,
the-
you have planning commission in the morning at 7:30.
Yep.
And then we move session to start at 10. So that
Okay.
you have extra time for the planning commission.
okay,
And then the CIC luncheon is at noon, and then at 3 o'clock, we have to be in Parkman for the
Right.
public view regarding the vacation of a portion of Doty and the unnamed non-numbered road in Parkman.
that's at 3 o'clock.
Yes.
Um,
So you moved Bowen this morning to the 19th.
right. So Ralph, you bring some rubber boots for us all?
Waiters.
It's gonna be cold, because there's not
Brush
enough
pants.
snow.
Yeah.
So,
So we have the work session immediately following this now?
if you.
Are there any birds out there? We could
I
bring a
still need a
shotgun
motion to
just in case.
adjourn, but, yeah, then you can have a few minutes, and then we'll reconvene to do your.
Okay.
motion.
The organizational meeting?
Yep.
Good.
Okay,
So with that,
motion to
So
adjourn.
move. Second? Yeah.